The year 1949 saw the publication of Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex, which is a very important, perhaps the single most important document in the history of feminism, and it is recognized now all over the world, not only as an important text of feminism, but as a strong pillar which, uh, you know, contributed a lot towards the freedom of humanity in general, because women and men, and of course today we must say the third gender, all this combine to make the human race. However, traditionally in patriarchal societies, as Beauvoir and others have shown, women were denied any or all kinds of subjectivity, and feminists argue, and we also see that in many ways this continues till date. But then there is an important point here, that are men always the beneficiaries of patriarchy? The answer is no, they are also victims, but we'll talk about it in some other video. Now, the second sex, the name itself is very telltale. Beauvoir makes a distinction between sex and gender, which was much later reverted by Butler, but again that we have discussed in our videos on lectures on Butler. Anyway, the second sex implies women. Man is the first or the privileged sex. Now, the distinction between sex and gender is that sex is biological, that is, whether one has male, organs or female organs, or which role one performs in reproduction, the seed giver or, the birth giver, that way. But gender is specifically cultural, that men should have short hair, women should have long hair, etc. etc. Men should work outside in the field, women should work at home. This kind of prescriptions and norms, these are all cultural and arbitrary. A culture which privileges male view, or male centered view of society. So that is why it is called androcentric or patriarchal, or even later a deconstructionist term is phallogocentric. Logocentric comes from Derrida, with that phallus or the male organ is added, so phallogocentric, the society, the male role is privileged. Butler's, if you ask me what is the key statement of Butler, or key research proposition of Butler in that book, I will not say that it is we are not born but made women. That is there, but for me, most important argument is that in that book that she has developed, the objectification of women. Men act as subject and women are made to act as objects. That is, it is the man who decides what women should do. All the religious lawgivers say Moses, Jesus, because she is speaking from a European point of view. We have alternative traditions in the East, but right now it is not proper. But here also it more or less it is more or less applicable. Moses gives laws. Uh, you know, Jesus gives laws. Who is the head of the Vatican City? Always a man. Yes, there are nuns and prioresses, as we see, but we have never heard that a lady has become the head of a church. So religion is the prime thing. In history also, though there are general history also, though there are exceptions. We have Elizabeth's and Victoria's, but by and large it is male dominated. So men are the subject and women are the object. Now, how did it happen? She takes, Simone de Beauvoir, takes multiple routes to examine the development. She goes to biology, she goes to economic history, she goes to general history, and then again she goes to religious or mythical history. But all these lead her to the belief that these developments were purely arbitrary. There is no logic, or there is no reason as to why man should be primary and women should be secondary. So that is why the main argument of the book is objectification of women, how women are made into objects. So in marriage also, even in Eastern societies, father, quote unquote, the father, quote unquote, donates the daughter, called nadan, that kind of thing. But we have never heard of a mother donating a son to another daughter, another person's daughter. So, and then there are these binaries, man, women, then say culture, nature, or reason or nature, flesh, spirit, day and night. In these kinds of binaries, always the first term is the privileged term, which is always reserved for man. For example, man is like spirit, man is the spirit, and women are the flesh. Beauvoir says that in doing so, what society or culture is doing is that denying women any life other than purely physical, and in the bargain what happens is that man is also denied their physicality, at least epistemologically. So men are like day and women are like night, and that way at every step it's secondary. In Hindi also, admi aurat, admi from adam, but aur means other, from that aurat it is possible, the other one. So not the primary one. So all these, you know conspire together, and then they are the causes of women's confinement in society for thousands of years. Now she also examines myths, mythologies, primarily Western mythologies, and then there also we find the same pattern. There again, some women are validated, but those women who fall in the norms that patriarchy sets for women, and in most important, I mean, in most of the cases, the norms that society or patriarchy sets for women is either of a virgin, pure virgin, or of a holy mother. If a woman deviate from this, then it is seen as quote unquote, a whore or a prostitute. So we have this Madonna and the whore dichotomy, and it basically comes from that again. There she agrees with Freud, a love-hate relationship with the mother. Men's, continuous trial at making women secondary also emerges from the fact that his life is, created by women, so for which there is a kind of inferiority complex, and also a hatred because the life that he gets from women is not a complete life because it is threatened by death. So these two things she brings psychoanalysis actually. So it's a complex book, the second text. So anyway, so these things basically taking a birth from women, but again a birth that is threatened at every moment, also contribute to men's vilification of women. And then, as I have said, certain images have been made, and then among them certain good images are to be certain good images are to be actually applied to or to be followed by who want to be good women. Chaucer has the legend of a good women, the legend of good women, chastity, etc. Satitva, as we say. So the idea of the eternal feminine, a woman should be like this, subservient, chaste, good, etc. And then if obedient to father, obedient to husband, but if not, then a bad woman. So there is a kind of absolute essentialism, absolute reductionism. So but then these images, women have to fit into. If a woman doesn't fit into, then she's a bad woman, fallen woman, so by doing this, what is happening is that the society or patriarchy is not recognizing women's individual inspiration. So you are an object, or you are, an animal that trained, that you have to fit into these categories. That is absolutely atrocious, condemnable, and we must fight to remove these things. Let women have freedom. But again, as I have said, men are also not free. Knowingly or unknowingly, they also keep on following this kind of expectations of patriarchy. So which has to be changed. Whatever reason there may have been, historical or psychological or religious or otherwise, to initiate the rules of patriarchy in the first place. But it is in a time we changed all this. So that is the primary thing about Beauvoir's second sex. So women's secondariness in patriarchy, secondly objectification of women, third is the idea of the eternal women, fourth we can say that this binary, where is two sets of ideas, light, darkness, culture, nature, or spirit, flesh, all these are there. And in this category, the first and privileged thing is always attributed to men, and the second category is attributed to or compared with women. And then the fifth thing is, the need for women in patriarchy, the need for women to conform to the norms. If they do not, then there is a there are kinds of punishments, we have in the Shariati acts or this and that Abrahamic laws, and in other societies also, in most of the societies. So to control women, to exploit them, to make them secondary, etc. That is why the title second sex is also very appropriate. And then this, as I have said, this is not only an important document of women's liberation, but human liberation in general. Thank you.